In their first season in the Big Ten, Oregon wins the Big Ten championship, sealed right here. Penn State driving down 8, and it is Nico Reed with the interception on Drew Aller. And then Dillon Gabriel gets a first down and seals it for the Ducks as they win it 45-37. Dillon Gabriel in this game, 22 of 32, 283 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. His favorite target, Tez Johnson, second game back from a shoulder injury, sets a Big Ten championship game record for receiving yards. 11 catches for 181 yards and a touchdown, a 48-yard strike. And Dillon Gabriel and the Ducks lock up the #1 seed in the college football playoff as they chase their first ever national championship in program history. CBS Sports HQ is built by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Here with two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS Sports college football writer Richard Johnson here to recap the Big Ten championship. And B-Mac, that was a heck of a game. Your reaction is what as you see it go down to an interception?
You know what? Being a former defender, I'm a bit biased. I don't like seeing a lot of points. But for this ball game, I was here for the points. The back and forth affair, both quarterbacks executing, completing big-time passes, running backs making big-time runs, defenders coming up with timely plays as well. But for Oregon, you talked about their stars on the offensive end. Their big three, Dillon Gabriel, 283 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tez Johnson, 181 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Running back Jordan James, 87 rushing yards, 2 big-time touchdowns. Their big three outplayed Penn State's offensive big three when you look at Singleton, Drew Aller, and Tyler Warren. Not to mention they played clean football as well, no turnovers. That led to them finding a way to seal the deal and win their first ever Big Ten championship, with the first time being in the conference.
B-Mac, how many times do we see Penn State in this exact spot? Against a great opponent, and they battle, and they fight, and they're there at the end, but they're on the wrong side of it. It is what James Franklin's Penn State is. There's no other way to put it. Until you win one of these, this is how we're going to measure you. We're going to measure you against this. And look, they may host a playoff game, probably will host a home playoff game here on December 20th or December 21st, and you're going to get a chance. You're going to get a chance to change the narrative about your program. But until you change it, it is what it is. It is what it is.
That's 11 straight losses against top 5 opponents under James Franklin, now 1-14. That one win was against Ohio State a few years back. But you have to credit Penn State the way they played this game. They were down 28-10. And look, there's no consolation, there's no participation slip, but Penn State showed you that they belong on this big stage, but they can't win the big game. As for Oregon, this team, who's beating this team? Who's beating this team?
I don't think Oregon's infallible. I don't think Oregon is this perfect.
I didn't say they were perfect.
I know.
But they just took Penn State's. They just took a right hook from Penn State and absorbed it.
Oregon's the #1 team in the country. I have no problems with that. I have no problems. They're undefeated, Big Ten champions. But there's nobody in the country that I'd say on a neutral field is more than a touchdown better in this playoff field. Of any of these 12
all you got to do is win by 1. That's how it works.
Any of these 12 teams.
Just got to win by 1.
And so because of that, Oregon can be beaten. I watched Ohio State take this Oregon team to the brink. I watched Boise State take this Oregon team to the brink. Penn State fought against this Oregon team. Wisconsin took this Oregon team to the brink, B-Mac.
Yeah, and the thing about Oregon, I think you have to create turnovers. You know, some of the teams that took them down to the brink, you talked about Boise, you know, they forced turnovers. You know, it was South Dakota State or North Dakota, something early in the year, they forced turnovers. But Dillon Gabriel is playing some of his best football. There lies the issue for opposing defenses going against Oregon, because when he's doing what he did today, 283, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, that's winning football. I was a bit surprised at their defense. When you talk about being more of a stout group, they allowed Drew Aller to have some moments. They allowed their running game to have some moments. Yeah. That's an issue for me. So I feel like if you're going to beat Oregon, number one, you have to get at least 2 takeaways. Number 2, you can't give up any takeaways. Those 2 turnovers, one wasn't a pick 6, but it was almost like a pick 6 because it was inside the 3-yard line. And then that final turnover, when you talk about having an opportunity to drive to attempt a game potential tying touchdown, those are the miscues that you cannot have against good teams. We talked about the SEC championship game and what Texas did not do. They gave Georgia extra possessions. Georgia was the cleaner football team. They played smarter. Guess what? They won ball game. They won the ball game. In Oregon's game tonight, they were the cleaner, smarter team that led to a victory.
And what should be noted also, Penn State goes for 2 a little early in the fourth quarter, B-Mac. You didn't like it when we were watching up there, and because of that, they're down 8 in that spot. Obviously, it doesn't matter because you throw the pick at the end there. Yeah. But you would have had to have gotten a 2-point conversion there because you put yourself in that spot.
And, you know, the reason why I don't like that is I'm just going through my prep when I was playing at Florida State. 2-point plays is something that you don't rep over and over again. You might go through it 5 minutes of a period of 2-point period, but you don't rep it like you do a third down situation. You don't rep it like you do in red zone situations. So clearly you won't be as prepared. And the same can be said for the defenders, but it's their job to stop. It's your job to execute. And that's why you don't see a lot of teams complete a lot of 2-point opportunities because they don't rep it like they do other situational moments in a 4-quarter ball game.
Well, we had questions because they played Idaho week 1, and you and I were here.
That was Idaho, yeah.
And we're sitting here going, yeah. Is this really that good of a team? And again, it's the early part of the season, but what have they shown you since that first game of the season now to this point winning the Big Ten championship?
They've shown me that the quarterback that came into their program is a for real dude right now. And I said this earlier. I think Dillon Gabriel is playing the best football we've seen right now in 2024, and this is the most critical time because early in the year you saw untimely red zone turnovers. That wasn't associated with Dillon Gabriel, especially a year ago at Oklahoma. Right now, what he's doing within this offense, think about the defense that he went against tonight. They had no answer for him. You know, Abdul Carter, anytime he collapsed the pocket, guess what Dillon did? Bounce outside, looking for guys open down the football field or making things happen with his legs. So when you have a quarterback like Dillon Gabriel with experience in the big play ability, not to mention one of the more quicker wide receivers in the game in Tez Johnson, you have to like their chances. Now, and I ask you guys this question. If you look at the 12 potential playoff teams, if you had to rank the quarterbacks, where would you rank Dillon Gabriel?
Number 1.
Yeah.
He might get right now. If there's 3 invites to New York for the Heisman Trophy, which I believe there should be. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes you don't have to.
4 or 5.
Right. Sometimes you say he's going to be there after this game. The voting's due Monday.
Yeah.
I think
we should see him next Saturday in New York City.
I think I would take Curtis Rourke over Dillon Gabriel. Curtis Rourke, Indiana's quarterback, over Dillon Gabriel. I think Curtis Rourke's a better player, but Dillon Gabriel's top 2, top 3.
And to your point, if that's the choice, if that's your choice, he still would be 2.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So he's either 1 or 2 if you were to ask college football fans that have really watched the game week in and week out, if you had to rank the 12 quarterbacks from the teams that we believe will be in the tournament, where would you rank Dillon Gabriel? If he's 1 or 2, that's a big plus in terms of who do you believe could beat Oregon, because they will have the advantage against almost every team in the playoffs in terms of the quarterback ranking, which is very, very important because one thing we know about playoff football, high school level, collegiate level, NFL level, when you got a go-getter at the quarterback position, you have more than a fighting chance than a team that does not have the same type of talent on their team at the quarterback position.
All right, time now for the Doers Playbook built by the Home Depot, how doers get more done, breaking down how a team's game plan leads to their success. Which phase of Dan Lanning's game was critical to this victory, B-Mac?
Wow, the rhythm throws. Like, you look at the first half surgence of production. The thing that I love, how he highlighted Tez Johnson.
Yep.
Remember, Tez is a guy who missed some time, but when he's been in the lineup, he can be a difference maker. If you go back and look at the first half, schematically speaking, a lot of in-breaking routes for Tez Johnson. Dillon Gabriel did a great job hitting him in stride, and you look at all of his production, it came in between the numbers. In between the numbers, that was the game plan. It was something that they witnessed and watched in Penn State's secondary that felt like they were vulnerable in breaking routes with their the fastest, quickest wide receiver in Tez Johnson that led to a record-breaking day, Hakeem, if I'm not mistaken.
Big Ten championship record
for receiving yards. That was great in terms of the prep and the game planning and executing. So me personally, when you talk about doers doing, that was a great job in what they were able to do with Tez Johnson.
There it is.
There it is.
My doer here is Dillon Gabriel. What Dillon Gabriel was able to do to get the ball to Tez Johnson, we just showed those clips to you there at home. Dillon Gabriel was doing a lot of stuff outside of the pocket.
Yeah.
Right. We saw Abdul Carter a lot of times come inside the tackle he was lined up over against. Dillon Gabriel had to break the pocket and make a throw on the run. Dillon Gabriel was outstanding doing that time and time again in this game. And you can't script that. Those are off-script plays that Dillon Gabriel's able to make. And I thought he was the key because they were able to generate so many explosive plays in the passing game because Dillon Gabriel extended plays all night.
And get this, Oregon, the 6th team to defeat Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State in the same season. The previous 5 instances were all by one school, Michigan State. So technically the second school to pull that off. And now Oregon solidifies its #1 seed in the college football playoff. Much more from Indianapolis coming up.